Shalom, party people, and welcome to the 12th C. So, Mr. JS Badger asks, how have you seen progress / development in the rotations of 75 hard that you've done this year? So, for those of you who have just been casually watching or may not know who I'm the 12th C conditioning. There's 12 C's in the C's of survival, and that 12th one is conditioning. And I challenged myself this year to do 4 rotations of 75 hard in the year of 2023. First cycle of it, I couldn't get my head in the game and I failed. So what I decided to do was just build good habits during that cycle. I had successfully completed 75 hard prior to that first cycle. It was just one of those that just couldn't get my head in the game for whatever reason. And so continued building good habits and got several, lengths of time in there before taking a little bit of a break and then hitting the ground running for cycle 2, which was successful, cycle 3, which was successful, and I'm 65 days out of 75 days into cycle 4. So, I've seemed to hit a stride, which has been good. I've got another video that I can link into this where I think it's something to the effect of, like, it took me 5 cycles of 75 hard to figure this out. But the basic premise behind it is you establish a good, solid working routine that you don't really deviate from, regardless of what life throws at you. And, maybe you need to wake up a little earlier on some days and get it done, and maybe you got to rush through a few. But, like, in general, you establish a solid routine that, when life throws stuff at you, you can respond accordingly. A few things that I've taken away. First and foremost, and I learned this in cycle 1, but it's really been driven hard in all of these, is I am really prone to overeating. And it's not so much that I'm eating outside of what I'm allowed to eat. Like, if it is an off-limits food item, I don't eat it. But I am really prone to, like, I'm eating because I'm bored and not because I'm hungry. And the grace that I have given myself in the diets that I've done this is just because I've known with very small kids, like my kiddo was born during one of the cycles of 75 hard that I did prior to all of this. And so with newborn babbies in the house and little pitter patters of feet and having to wake up at odd hours of the night, the grace that I have given myself is that my diet has been a restriction on the types of things that I can eat, and it has been a restriction on the amount of sugar that I can consume. And I'll have 3 standard meals, but I'm not really counting calories. I'm not counting fat. I'm just upping my protein content as much as I can. And I'm making sure to not eat things that are bad for me. But that doesn't mean that I don't eat a lot. So that is something, the tendency to want to overeat is there for me. But my personality type, I'm either 0 or 100. And so if I have 1 Oreo, I'm eating the whole dang package. But if I'm like, Oreos are off limits, I'm not eating any. And so it's one of those that tendency to overeat for me is like, because I'm allowed to eat a certain item, I'm like, well, I'm going to have it all now. And that's something that I really need to work on developing in the future is just like, hey, I'm only going to have this. I'm only going to have this much, and everything else past this is off limits. And that is a personal reflection habit that I need to build. Something else that I've learned is that I am capable, and let's walk for a second. I am capable of so much more than I thought I was. So I set for myself throughout the year some challenges and some distances to run. This was something that the original idea was I was going to do a Spartan race. And that fell through because of distance and timing and a couple other things. But I started off with 8 miles and wanted to work my way down to where I would hit 33 miles. And I got quite a few of them. Got past 26 without any issue. The 29 was a half-hearted attempt, and it just, my head wasn't in the game and it wasn't going to happen. And the 33-mile thing just didn't even happen at all. Do I think I probably could run those distances? I think if I prepped for it, I might be able to. I know I can pound out 26 miles. That's on film. You can go watch that if you want. But I also set for myself some challenges. I set in each of my cycles, and I know 75 hard is only 75 days, not 90, but I broke the year up into 90-day segments so that way I could have some things to focus on. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But in each 90-day quarter of the year, I broke down some challenges I would attempt to do 1,000 of something one month, and then the next month I would do a daily habit builder, and then the next month I would do a ruck challenge. So that way I would have that cycle repeating for the first 3 of 4 quarters. That fourth quarter has been something that it was going to be after that Spartan race. So it was something of, we're still going to challenge me, but it's going to be some set apart challenges that are a little bit different. And that included things like a backyard ultra, which I didn't even attempt, in all honesty. And then the 30 days, 30 Murphs, I did that, knocked it out of the park. And then I did a fireman's carry ruck challenge where my buddy and I, who we run together and we ruck together from time to time, I was in full loadout, and then he had his full loadout, and I fireman carried him for about 200-ish yards, a little bit more, and it was uphill. Had a whole lot of fun doing that. All in all, challenging myself, pushing myself to go further when I was exhausted, when I didn't think I had it in me. I got a lot of these done. Now, would it have been cool to get everything done and knock things out? Well, of course it would have been. I failed on the 1,000 burpee thing. I failed on, the 1,000 pull-ups. I ended up doing rows on that one instead of pull-ups, and I didn't even get the full 1,000. But I still achieved a lot more than I thought I would. So even in that failure, things going far was there. For my book reading, something that was done, Refuge Medical at the beginning of the year, they put out a 12 book of the month challenge, and I didn't hardly buy very many of them, in all honesty. I had trouble finding a couple, and so I reached out to some friends and they sent me what they had. But other than that, I really utilized my library for just about all of this. So it was one of those that it's no excuse because you can't find it. You use your resources, you get your hands on what you can, and some of them you end up buying, some of them, you get through the networking system that your library has. But broke that up into 4 quarters as well. And those books, in all honesty, they kind of had some themes going on, and they really correlated with what was going on in my 75 hard for the whole kick and caboodle. So the first quarter, perseverance and refinement. It was about pushing through, even though I knew I had failed. It's like, hey, we're not going to roll over and take this. We're going to keep going. But it was also refining, and it was finding those habits that we could keep going and make something work. And a lot of it was trial and error, but it's like, hey, we're going to fail forward. And that's what really mattered. And the 3 books that were in that quarter are Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David, The Power of One More by Ed Milet, and Crush the Chatterbox by Stephen Furtick. And all 3 of those really kind of focused on the whole aspect of perseverance. Keep going, do one more. You got this. You plan ahead. But it was also refining to make sure that, hey, there are certain things that you need to listen to and certain things that you don't need to listen to. And that really lined up with where I was at mentally during that cycle of 75 hard. There was also, in the next cycle, Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek, The Compound Effect. And then we also got into The Power of Habit. Those 3 books are a concept of leadership and then also momentum for what you got going. And that second cycle completed it, got everything done, knocked stuff out of the park, but moved on. Built good habits, but also focused on self-leadership, not just leadership of the people around me. The third cycle of 75 hard for this year, Everyone Communicates but Few Connect by John C. Maxwell. Great book. Got into Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And then Think and Grow Rich by, who was it? It was Mr. Hill. That's an older book, and it was good. Those 3 really focused on communication and mindset. That mindset is a really powerful thing. I'm not a big believer in this concept of, like manifesting the solutions to your problems, but I'm tracking with the concept of you set your mind to something and you focus on that and you focus on how to solve the problems that come up. Kick butt, take names, get stuff done, but it's not just going to come to you because you focus on it. It's going to be, you have to put in the sweat equity to make it work. But if your mind is focused on it, then that's what you're going to go and kick butt and take names. So The next one, this final that we're in, and we've still got, 10, 11 days left. Dedication and Influence. And those books are Jab, 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 Right Hook, Outliers, and the 48 Laws of Power. The whole concept is we've got to not only set our minds on things and get stuff done, but we have got to realize that what are we focused on? What we're focused on matters. And the influence that we bring into things has a lot of weight and a lot of potential behind it. And it's what you do with it. Everybody's got power. Everybody's going to have power influenced on them. What do you do with it? That's what really, really matters. So I would say for cycle 1 of 75 hard, perseverance and refinement summed the whole thing up for me. Focus on getting stuff done, even if you fail forward, and then refine, move on. Second set, leadership and momentum. Focus on the aspects of leadership, learning the aspects of leadership of what kind of leader do you want to be. You want to take care of your people, and you also want to make sure that your momentum is something to where your vibe's going to attract your tribe, and you can keep moving forward, get stuff done. That third setup, communication and mindset. If you're not connecting with people, that communication's falling flat. And where your mindset is, that is going to be what helps you achieve things. That's going to be what helps people want to get on board. And that last one, dedication and influence. If you're dedicated to knocking stuff out of the park, if you were dedicated to hustling and grinding and getting stuff done even when it sucks, and you're bringing that influence with you of, hey, this is the kind of person that I want to be, people get on board, it's well worth it. Go do hard things.